We have been really excited here at this show for the Republicans to present their alternative to President Obama's budget. We even started a countdown clock, remember? Which, frankly, is less exciting to look at once the thing you're counting down to has taken place. Just sort of zeros. Anyway, last week, the Republicans released a teaser for their budget that contained precisely one significant budget number, a whopper of a tax cut for wealthy people. President Bush's giant tax cut for the rich was about 4 points. The Republicans now are talking about dropping taxes for the rich, another 10 points on top of that. Yes! That was the only real policy number in the Republicans' teaser glossy brochure that they released last week. But now, we've got the whole deal.
This is our budget, with real policies and real numbers.
Real numbers! This could only be better if they also brought along giant graphs. Oh, please, oh, please. Yes! Tax cuts for the wealthy. Very innovative. Repealing the economic stimulus package. Who needs stimulus anyway? Increasing offshore oil drilling. Drill, baby, drill! No, really, drill, baby, drill! And my personal favorite, freezing government spending, except for the military, for 5 years. In an economy gasping for spending, with unemployment numbers looking like a graph of testosterone levels during puberty, because no one is spending any money in this economy, when all basic 101 level economic theory says the government has to spend some money right now to counteract the disastrous recessive cycle that we are in, the Republicans want a 5-year spending freeze. Well, not all people in the Republican Party agree with that, actually. As you know, I sat down with former Secretary of State Colin Powell today, and we got a chance to talk about the Republicans' budget proposals. The Republican Party right now is sort of trying to find its legs politically, I think, while they're in the minority. And the one issue they seem to be coalescing around is the idea that there ought to be a spending freeze, that the government ought to get smaller and ought to try to do less. I wonder if that makes you feel like less of a Republican? How do you feel about the Republican Party now?
I have never seen a spending freeze work. I have heard it trotted out many. What are you going to freeze? Social Security benefits? What are you going to freeze? The growth of Medicare payments? Veterans? No increase in disability amounts for veterans? Are you going to freeze the Defense Department? You can't freeze a government as large as ours with a budget of $1.5 trillion. And so if somebody actually froze everything, then it would freeze our development assistance. I'm proud to say that in the Republican administration I worked in, President Bush's first term, we doubled the amount of development assistance. We quadrupled the amount going to our African brothers and sisters, and we created a program to fight HIV, AIDS, and other infectious diseases that went up to $15 billion. And that passed in Congress, both Democrats and Republicans. So I hope my Republican friends don't go too far with this spending freeze idea, because I don't think it works. It's not really practical.
Are you still a Republican?
I am a Republican, yeah, but I am also an American citizen, and I try to make my political judgments on what I think is best for the country.
And in other words, what's best for the country bears no relation to what the Republicans have just proposed for their budget. So says the most popular Republican in the country, who is not Laura Bush. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Pete DeFazio of Oregon. Congressman DeFazio, thank you for coming in. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you in person.
So the Republicans have proposed an alternative to the Obama budget, which is a blessing to those of us whose job it is to figure out where they're coming from. Do you feel like you have a better sense of what their agenda is now?
Yes. Well, no, it's not much different than it's been. Tax cuts solve all problems. I mean, we're pretty soon going to fill in potholes with tax cuts, collapsing bridges, health care. Everything comes from tax cuts. I mean, this budget says if you want to have a new government program or increase spending, you have to cut other government programs. Zero-sum game. So government can't grow despite population grows or needs grow, or we're in a big economic hole. Except you can decrease revenues. So you can have tax cuts, but you don't have to pay for the tax cuts. You only have to pay for services to people. I guess the theory being that somehow tax cuts will educate our kids, tax cuts will take care of our failing infrastructure. I mean, they've got more uses for tax cuts than the book 1001 Uses of Duct Tape. I mean, you know, they ought to have the 1001 uses of tax cuts.
Well, because it is, I mean, there's this 5-year spending freeze, but because it is all tax cuts, even with this, they're proposing a $1.7 trillion deficit.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I mean, since they're so big, you know, born again of fiscal conservatives after, you know, spending just, you know, I mean, increasing spending dramatically and cutting revenues all through the Bush years, having a war off the books, you know, and tax cuts, borrowing money for tax cuts, all that. Now suddenly they're born again as fiscal conservatives. And what does it mean to be a fiscal conservative? Well, while the government's running deficits and we're concerned about it, we will cut revenues. They have this weird theory of like dynamic scoring. I mean, I guess under their theory, if we ultimately resume, you know, got taxes down to nothing, then the government wouldn't have a deficit anymore.
That we wouldn't have that pesky government to worry about at all. Well, ultimately.
Yeah, right. There is that.
John McCain suggested a one-year spending freeze during the campaign. Senator Sessions suggested a 2-year freeze. Senator Grassley said maybe a 3-year freeze. How do you think they end up on five-year spending freeze? And what do you think the impact of that would be on the economy?
Well, there was 1, 2, and 3 proposed. They skipped 4 because they're not great at math, and they went to 5. I mean, it's like we do 5-year budgets, so 5-year freeze sounded good to them. I mean, hey, by then they expect Sarah Palin to be president, and all things will be good. Magic,
tax cuts, no potholes. Isn't it true, though, that the idea of freezing spending, not doing any sort of stimulus, sort of hamstringing government, wasn't there sort of a pilot project for that during the Great Depression?
Yeah, well, we had first, I mean, Hoover before and deepening the fall into the Depression. And then actually a couple of times Roosevelt stopped spending and the economy sank back down again. So it's pretty well, but they've got a whole new reconstructive theory about Roosevelt, too, that the spending wasn't what got us out of the Depression. It was the parts, you know, I mean, they just have these weird ideas. I don't know, I studied economics and I went to a really different school than they did. So.
Well, we've talked about a number of different budget issues, domestic priority issues before, and I wonder if, given that this is what the Republicans are proposing, and they have actually put a proposal on the table now, so we get to debate it, and I do think that's a blessing to really know where they're coming from. I have to ask if you are frustrated by the rise of the blue dogs within your own party. Blue dog caucus within the House, and also a new blue dog-like caucus in the Senate, essentially arguing for reducing the deficit, reducing federal spending, even within the Democratic Party. Is that a frustration to you?
Well, no, I mean, President Obama said he wants, his long-term goal is to get control of the deficit, return us to fiscal responsibility, but short-term, he's saying we can't cut spending in the short term. And you know, I think the blue dogs are, you know, they're a little torn here. I mean, a number of them voted for TARP. I didn't. So, you know, they were willing to borrow the $700 billion to bail out Wall Street. So, I'm not going to take grief from them for wanting to pay for health care or improvements in our transportation infrastructure or other essentials, education for the American people. So, I think we'll get through this okay. The budget in the House is pretty good, actually. The numbers are good. We're increasing funding in education, health care, dramatically increasing transportation, actually, over the president's proposal, and being a little bit more honest about, you know, we're not going to pretend that we're not going to fix the AMT the first year, and hopefully by the second year we'll have real tax reform, so then we don't have to mess with that anymore.
Think it's going to pass?
It's going to pass by a decent margin.
Congressman Pete DeFazio of Oregon, it's really nice to see you in person.
You.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.